Welcome to Stories from the Midland's first 360-degree video. I'm Tommy Allen, and before we head out to the Vindicator today, I'm going to show you a little bit about manipulating a 360-degree video and get you comfortable with the process. If you're using, if you're using a cell phone to watch this video, really all you got to do is if you want to look up, you just look up and you make sure that the phone tilts back a little bit because that'll help with the effect. And if you want to look down, just tilt forward and look down, and left and right. And if you want to turn completely around, just turn completely around. And then you'll be looking behind you. Or you can also take your finger and put it on your phone and drag left to go left, drag right to go right, up and down, and the image will follow you. Now, if you are watching on your computer and you're using a mouse, if you want to look up, right click and pull back to look up, or right click and push forward to look down, and left and right is the same. And if you want to look behind you, just do a long drag in either direction, left or right, or you can do multiple moves in the same direction, and that will get you turned around as well. Now, if you're using VR goggles like these ones here, you probably already know how this whole thing works and you're already looking around the room. Now, before we head out to the Vindicator, why don't you take a moment and just look around the room and exercise the 360-degree control, whether you're using your phone or a mouse or a VR headset. And while you're doing that, I'll just tell you just a little bit about the mine itself. The Vindicator Mine was actually established by a brewing family out of Denver named the Zhang family. And the father, the patriarch of the family, wanted to expand their portfolio. And when things really started to take off in Cripple Creek, came down and bought the Vindicator Mine. He put a couple of his sons-in-laws and his actual son Adolf in charge of the mine, and they were on the board. And they became the fourth most producing mine for gold out of Cripple Creek, behind the Crescent, the Independence, and the Portland mine. Now, if you want to find out more about the entire story of the Vindicator Mine, you can go to storiesfromthemidland.com/podcast and listen to our podcast called The Vindicator Mine and the Family Who Built It. Now, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and head off to the Crescent. Let's go ahead and head off to the Vindicator. Here we are at the Vindicator Valley Trail. That large structure you see back there is the Vindicator No. 1 orehouse. The skeletal tower you see just in front of us is the headframe. And if you look to the right and somewhat behind us, you'll see the winches. So, in the most basic terms, how this worked is that a cable ran from the winches to the two pulley wheels you can see at the top of the headframe. From there, the cables dropped down into the shafts to drive the elevators that carried miners, tools, carts, and of course, the ore. Once the ore was brought to the surface, it was transported across a bridge to the orehouse for processing. We'll get more into that later. For now, take a few moments to look around you. If you turn your view to the left, go past the guy in the tan jacket, you can go ahead and ignore him. You can see a small cement structure with a curved roof. That was the magazine for storing explosives that were used in the mine. If you turn your view forward again towards the headframe, the remnants of the roof next to it belonged to a one-story building that was still standing when I first came across these mines around 15 years ago. The words, "Safety First," were painted on the side of the building in giant block letters. Are you ready to move on? Let's go to the next location. Here we are at the base of the headframe. This headframe was built in 1908 to replace the wooden one that preceded it. If you look up, you can see the two pulley wheels near the top of it. You'll also notice that the crossbars of the headframe are almost all twisted and misshapen. When I first saw this, I thought the twisting was the result of time past. But if you look at this 1938 picture from the Victor Heritage Society's webpage on the Vindicator, behind it and to our left of the miners, you'll see the same headframe with the same twisted crossbars. Now take a moment to look around here. Behind us, you'll see another, closer view of the Vindicator's orehouse. And if you turn back around and look straight through the base of the headframe, you'll see the winch we were standing next to earlier. Okay, let's head to the next spot. Now, we're walking along the fantastic trail maintained by the Southern Teller County Focus Group. I'll put a link to their webpage in the show notes. There, you'll find a lot of great information on touring these old mine structures. In front of us, you can see the western side of the orehouse. The orehouse is where all of the ore came in to be processed, where gold-rich ore was deposited into cars in that tunnel you can see at the house's base, and rock that didn't contain any gold was separated and discarded. Let's go have a closer look at that tunnel. Here's the tunnel in which gold-rich ore was located into rail cars for transport to mills to get the gold extracted. Feel free to take some time to look around. I apologize for the blurry area at the top of the frame. This is from a 360-degree still photo taken with my drone, and the drone I have can't look up. Now let's go have a look at the remains of the bridge on the north side of the orehouse. This was a bridge from the base of the headframe to the orehouse. In fact, if you turn completely around, you'll see that the headframe is directly in this bridge's path. Looking back at the orehouse, if you were to look at an older picture, you'd see that there was another bridge that ran to the middle of the top floor on this wall. But it looks like at some point the bridge was rerouted and the original entry was sealed up. The hole you see in that part of the wall is now a ramp for the disposal of waste rock. Every time I've come here, I've wondered what is through this gap in the corrugated metal. So, what do you say we go have a look? It seems that this floor is pretty much empty now. It was the original level where the bridge from the headframe delivered ore from the mine for sorting. And if you look to the right, you can look down into Vindicator Valley and see some of the structures that we have yet to visit. Next, let's swing around and look at the south side of the orehouse. Let me put up a picture to show you how the orehouse looked when it was in operation. I don't know when this picture was taken, but it looks like it was a black and white that was colorized by hand. Again, take a little time to look around and familiarize yourself with this face of the orehouse and the surrounding area. Okay, we've looked at the north, west, and south sides of the orehouse. Now let's go have a look at the east side. This side of the orehouse is rarely seen as no path takes visitors to a place to get a good view of it, but I think it's the most interesting side. Here's a picture of it, probably not taken too long after the 1908 building of the metal headframe. Since that picture was taken, it appears that additional rooms were built on this and the north sides of the orehouse. Also, when the bridge carrying the ore was rerouted, it looks like the new entry was into that doghouse at the top floor with all of the rails sticking out of it. Now if you turn around and look down to the end of the valley, you may be able to catch a glimpse of the town of Goldfield. Goldfield was a miner's town for families. You can hear all about it in our podcast episode, A Historic Look at Goldfield. So that about wraps up our tour of the Vindicator Mine. I really hope you've enjoyed the journey, and if you did, please like the video and subscribe to our channels. I'm just getting this and the photos from the Midland channels up and running and would really appreciate your support. All right, have a great day.